we talked about can't be evil rather than don't be evil. And we used this phrase for the crypto natives earlier in the audience, sufficiently decentralized. So can you define what that means practically in Farcaster? So I think as a Farcaster user, or as like a former recovering Twitter user, let's say, I still tweet from time to time. I want to have the ability to port my username and my social graph somewhere else if I want to. Like that seems to me fundamental. And then we were talking about the inability for Farcaster to rug Frame developers, let's say, or any developers, right? So, I mean, very famously, Twitter's restricted API access many times in the past, rugged entire companies. So did Facebook, right? I mean, this is like, we have a full history of this. And so how is it such that you can't rug? And what are the crypto components of this entire platform? Because I think Farcaster keeps its crypto profile light, but very intentional in terms of what it's trying to do on chain versus what it's trying to do in centralized servers. So can you kind of describe that landscape for us?
Yeah, so that's all accurate. And I think the way to think about it is there are three layers to the cake. So the first is and let's actually start from the consumer experience. So you download an app. Warpcast is the most popular app. It's basically the only mobile client, although people are starting to build other mobile clients, which is exciting. 85% of usage of Farcaster is on mobile, right? So one piece of advice I always give to crypto builders, if you're building anything consumer, if the use case is to use this on the couch, 85% of the usage of couch time is on phone, not on a computer. So don't build the app that you think because you sit on a computer on the couch. Consumers sit on the couch and they go like this. So mobile is really important. And that's how private, the vast majority of people interacting with Farcaster interact through a mobile app. The mobile app is a centralized thing. So the best example here is like Gmail and email. Like email is a protocol. Gmail is a private service. You could use Yahoo. You could use something different. In this case,
Gmail is the client.
Yes, the client, the app. The kind of app Warpcast, we run that in AWS. Like we have an app store account on Google and Apple, and kind of manage all of that stuff. We build this app, and then the next layer down is where it starts to get interesting. Is we connect into the Farcaster protocol, which at this point is actually decentralized, and that is a layer of servers that kind of all peer together. So you can almost think of it as sort of like BitTorrent, not quite. So it's not a blockchain, but it's kind of like a group of servers that get to eventual consensus on what's the state of the network, right? Like what casts come from, what people, what do their profiles look like, who's liking what casts. Like the system kind of works pretty well. And that's totally open source. Anyone can go download and run a hub. The hubs have varied up into at one point we had 700 people running a hub. They're not that expensive to run. And most people just run them in the cloud, but you could run them on a kind of like home computer. And each hub has a full copy of the network. Okay, so that's similar to an Ethereum node, right? It's not a blockchain, but it takes that property of, as a developer, I can just spin up a hub and I don't have to rely on anyone else to get anything. I can be like, okay, I want all the casts from Ryan. Like, boom, like you can immediately get that information. You don't have to pay anyone else. Don't have to ask for permission. The last part of the system, and this is the only part of the system that's actually on a blockchain, but critically important, it's the actual like identity. And the identity is just a simple number. It's an integer. So I am the third user on Farcaster account, Varun plus me. So I'm FID, Farcaster identity, 3. And the whole system just works off of that number. So each of you have an FID. Anytime you're doing something, the way the system works is when you go to write a message, that leaves the app. It goes into that kind of BitTorrent hub network. The hub goes, okay, this is coming from FID3. Please tell me, does the signature, the cryptographic signature, match the thing that's on the blockchain? If yes, great. Now I'm going to distribute it. If no, it's a spoof. It's a fake cast. And that's the system. So the beauty of that system is the only thing that costs money, or they're kind of two things. When you sign up, you create that initial mapping, you get that little FID. And then anytime you kind of want to make an adjustment, maybe you roll your cold storage or your hot wallet and you want a new address that controls that ID. But then other than that, it's I always like to say it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's like once you pay, like you can do as much as you want on the Farcaster network. And what's really nice about that is there's no cost. right? So I think that the challenge of like just imagining the usage of social media, that even if you had a small cost, it creates a mental thing of people being like, oh, I don't know if I want to press this button. It's like a little bit. You want to encourage as many people as possible to use the app. You want to have people to smash the like button. That is actually how you drive the kind of growth of the social network. And so in building this system, we like to think of it as like a hybrid blockchain system. We just tried to take a pragmatic approach. Varun and I both worked at Coinbase. I wrote a post actually when I left for Balaji's Moment in the Sun Nakamoto publication called Coinbase's Pragmatism. And the idea that like we always approach at Coinbase is like, what's the best user experience while still holding true to the values of crypto. And you guys have been in crypto long enough. It's like Coinbase has taken a lot of arrows. Coinbase takes basically no arrows at this point relative to where they used to. And people now appreciate it's like, oh yes, this company actually like practices what they preaches. Yes, it's a big company. They sometimes have to make compromises, but they've been a net positive for the ecosystem. I think for us, it's we don't need to be maximally on chain. Like that doesn't actually make the product any better. If anything, it makes it worse and more expensive. And so for us, it's the sufficient decentralization mentality is this pragmatic mentality of saying, do the one thing that matters to make sure that that is sovereign, censorship resistant, no one can go muck with that, and then take pragmatic approaches everywhere else and be transparent and open in how you approach it. And I think here's an example. If we had a maximally decentralized attitude, the Warpcast client would be open source. And the expectation is everyone would run their own hub because you shouldn't trust any hub that would be run by someone else. And so you get into a place where you've actually achieved even more decentralization, but you don't have any usage. And so for us, this mentality of sufficient decentralization is live up to something where you can look, Vitalik in the face and say, yes, this is a credibly neutral, decentralized network, but we are not going any more decentralized than we need to for the average user, because the user experience doesn't improve here, and the developers actually have sufficient decentralization to have a great experience. And so that's where you're kind of trying to meet, rather than being purely ideological and saying, oh, I can make the system even more decentralized. There's a time and place for that, potential systems that are designed for people who really need that. But I think the reality is any version of the world where the social media that we use is built on kind of a permissionless open system where you can't rug people with APIs, which is the case of Farcaster, I think is a significant improvement over WordPress.
If you enjoyed all of that, then you'll absolutely love the Bankless newsletter. Join over 300,000 fellow readers, all for free. Click below to sign up.